Hi everyone, my name is Amo, and today I'll be talking about screen addictions. So for this video, I will start with some introduction about the concept of screen addiction. I will give some examples about the factors behind screen addiction. I will give an overview about some stats that are related to screen addictions, and I will also share some methods that may be effective to deal with screen addiction. Lastly, I will show a demo of an app to see how I can improve some features on the app to actually reduce screen addiction. So what is screen addiction? Stats shows that 85% of the Americans today own a smartphone. So screen addiction is becoming a major concern in our world that we cannot overlook. Screen addiction is currently defined as the obsessive use of technology such as smartphones, TVs, and computers, and when we use them to actually play games or watch videos to the point that we cannot control ourselves or we spend too much time on it. So note that the keyword here is obsessive. This means that we are addicted to screens not because we want to, but because we need to. Some screen addicts are felt like mild to severe discomfort when they're deprived of their screens. They feel anxious and restless, and they may even have difficulties focusing on their tasks. Severe addictions might result in actually affect the patient's family, schools, work, and relationships. Over the years, negative effects of screen addiction on mental health and physical health have been found and proved. Some of these are prolonged screen time may be associated with things like physical issues such as sleep disorders, headaches, eye strain, and neck and back pain. On the other hand, there might be psychological issues such as depression, anxiety, and social isolation. So for this video, I'll be talking about screen addiction from two perspectives, the human perspective and the technological perspective. For the human perspective, I'll be talking about more of the reasons behind screen addictions and why is it possible biologically that we are addicted to something. And this so for this, I'll be talking about three factors: dopamine rush, the social media validation, and the fear of missing out. Dopamine rush is a biological process that when we do something happy, let's say licking ice cream, a chemical called dopamine is released. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's responsible for feeling of pleasure and reward. However, when we lick the ice cream 10 times, we no longer feel the same amount of joy because the joy from dopamine actually has diminishing returns. So let's imagine a button in our brain that triggers dopamine release. When we use our phone to play game, read some notifications or watch funny videos, it's like pressing the button. However, our joy from looking at the same thing are diminished. That's why many softwares take advantage of this phenomenon and actually constantly push us with new video and new contents to make sure we are always getting the highest amount of pleasure and reward from it. So social media validation is, on the other hand, is a psychological effect that actually promotes screen addiction. So on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, our main sense of joy comes from validation from others. So when our posts are liked and when we receive approval from others, we get a sense of joy. And so by providing constant stream of notifications and updates, users now feel validated and approved. As a result, they have to constantly check their account for new notifications and approvals to meet their demand for the joy, percent of joy and the dopamine release. So eventually, this might become a compulsive behavior pattern, which ultimately led to screen addiction. Another psychological effect is called the fear of missing out. So people, especially young adults and teenagers today, are mostly addicted because they are fear of missing out. They are constantly connected to their device, so they will not miss out the latest trend or news happening around them. And as a result, the mental or fear of missing out eventually drive them to constantly check for updates and news, so they will not be behind when they talk about it, which ultimately also led to a form of addiction. Another way to look at the phenomenon of screen addiction is from the technological perspectives. So tech companies, especially large tech companies, they often uses this promote things such as distractions, accessibility, and stimulations, and implement those in their apps and are designed to actually keep users constantly on their apps. For instance, distraction means that these tech companies provide users with a constant stream of notifications, alerts, and updates. So whenever we are trying to break away from our phone, something will bring us back. Imagine like how many times do we actually just want to check our time, but ultimately end up browsing through every single notifications and apps for a good 30 minutes. And worst of all, sometimes after 5 minutes, the whole cycle just repeats. This like even sometimes when we try to focus, something will actually distract us from doing it. And these distractions eventually led us to compulsive behavior patterns, which is ultimately a form of addiction. There's also this problem of accessibility. So now 85% of Americans own a smartphone today, just like I mentioned in the start of the video. So it is actually very easy for any individuals to use a smartphone and computer constantly every day. And the price of these electronic gadgets also become more and more affordable day to day, and so it's really available to all age groups. As a result, people today can live without a phone today. When they check their time, when they want to take a photo, when they want to listen to music, when they want to just do anything, they have to look at their phones. So eventually, even the original intention is just to take a photo or just to look at the time, they actually are caught up in other things, such as when they see a notification on their phone or when they see a bubble showing that there's like 100 messages. And now and then it becomes a perfect platform for tech companies to create apps that actually harvest our attention. So lastly, there's this thing called the stimulations, which companies take great advantage from. Just like I mentioned in the human's perspective, where where I give the metaphor a button that releases dopamine. Many apps actually are designed to be visually and mentally stimulating. They're essentially just placing the buttons all around the apps. So for instance, for social media apps like TikTok and Instagram, users actually you get complicated algorithms to feed them with content, and these contents is like carefully selected to make sure users are always stimulated to the maximum, and they always find these new videos interesting. And this is also something that has been done a lot of online games, because they deploy things like daily objectives and ranking system to ensure that users constantly feel a sense of achievement while playing. So now let's look at some stats. So on average, some people actually taps like 2,600 times a day. On average, 75% of Americans consider themselves to be addicted to their phones, and 25% of the young adults are dealing with more severe problems. 8% of the population actually is already becoming a disorder for them, and some report says that these numbers are underestimation. They might be as high as 40% of the general population that's having an addiction disorder. So is there really no solution to solving this problem? Actually not. Two solutions I come up with is dopamine fasting and remote stimulant. Dopamine fasting refers to creating a schedule that actually reduces the rate of frequency we press the button until we are no longer obsessed to press it. Just like regular dieting, let's say we look at our phone at least 8 hours a day, we create a schedule and a goal to actually cut our screen time by an hour each week. And then we gradually bring down the addiction level to an acceptable level. On the other hand, the solution, another method is to remove the stimulant around us. I think this is more effective because it actually directly reduces the root cause of the problem. So by removing the button completely, there's no way we can just press it. For instance, an example would be remove the source of distraction away from us. So when we are trying to work or when we try to go sleep, we can actually disable the alarm system and make sure there's no notifications. Therefore, gradually we become less resilient because we don't not distracted and stimulated in any way. Of course, when things go out of control and these methods do not work, it is always good to seek professional guidance from psychiatrists and counseling. Here's this and screenshot I found of the Reddit app, which I can use to do a demonstration. So as you can see here, in Reddit, whenever you scroll past a video, the video actually play itself. Personally, I think this is a very addictive feature because images and videos are great visual stimulant. So when the video plays itself, the user will just want to see what's the whole video, and eventually when the time accumulates and the screen times increase drastically. Also on the bottom right corner, you can see that this notification box is always feeding users with like new messages and likes from their posts or replies from other posts. So as a result, users are constantly like trying to validate, get validation from their post and stuff, just like I mentioned before. It's also a great source for the fear of missing out because users just don't want to miss out any like comments people make on their post. Also, Reddit has an algorithm that actually fits user with the trending new informations. For instance, they will push some of the subreddit that are currently very popular on Reddit, which make users even more addicted because they have more things to look at. So some of the changes I'll make is first, I will make sure all the images and videos are blurred, just like how they used to do it with spoilers alert. So as a result, the user can no longer preview the image or the video before they actually actually read the title. So since words are much less stimulative than images and videos, it is actually better. Also, I will definitely remove the notification on the box, so users can only see the notification when they remember it or when they actively try to look at it. Lastly, I'll make sure there's no feeding or any like algorithms behind what users sees, and users can only see what they want to see and what they choose to see. So there'll be no ways we can feed the user the content that they do not want to see it, which ultimately reduce their addiction since they have less thing to look at right now. And that'll be all for my video. Thank you very much.